Well, it's almost time, folks. Hopefully you can hear me. The mic has been working today. The camera has been sort of working today. It decided to do something weird last period, but usually when something does something strange, what do? You turn it off and back on again, and there you go. It's working fine. So we'll hope it makes it through this class. We're going to wait just a little bit. There's a few more people that need to make it in. Thankfully, and I appreciate it very much, just about everybody has made it in. We're just waiting for a few other people. So Chase, if you feel comfortable missing this lecture because there's a chance on Monday or Tuesday there'll be a quiz based on some of the information in this lecture, it's up to you. Okay. It should be posted as long as nothing goes wrong and I don't absentmindedly erase everything. This lecture should be posted on the class page on Monday. So it's up to you. So a couple more people, and because there's a couple people that generally always show up, but we're almost there. We've almost got it. So, there is no quiz today, but somebody asked that last period. Why does everybody ask, is there a quiz today? So they can leave. But that doesn't mean that anything we cover in this lecture isn't fair game for a quiz later on or sometime next week. So don't just bail. It's lonely enough here as it is without you guys participating in this. So just hang out with me, man. It's 45 minutes of your life that you'll never get back, and I'll try my best not to ruin that 45 minutes. But I can't promise anything. So looks like we've got just about everybody. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and at some point I may need to let somebody else in if they show up, but who knows? There's no telling. So today what we're going to talk about is laminating. All right, it's one of the requirements in the beginning class that you learn how to laminate. And laminating is nothing more than gluing two or more pieces of material together to make a larger piece of material. For example, we can glue two boards together. Let me zoom that out a little bit. We can glue two boards together, edge to edge, to make a wider board. Okay. We can glue two boards together face to face to make a thicker board. What we cannot do, at least not in this shop, there are ways to do it, but we don't have the tooling necessary to do it. We do not glue boards together end to end to make a longer board. Now, we talked earlier in the semester, what seems like forever ago, about the differences between face grain, edge grain, and end grain. Okay. There is a definite face on a board, there's a definite edge on a board, there's a definite end. But when we talk about grain, okay, when we say face grain, edge grain, end grain, okay, what we're talking about is the characteristics of those surfaces. For example, this board sitting here like this is the same way it was sitting when it was in a tree, okay? Nutrients, moisture that comes in through the roots goes up through these cellular pathways, up through the trunk of the tree to the leaves, right? So imagine, if you will, that these cellular pathways, these paths by which nutrients and moisture gets from the root system up into the canopy of the tree, imagine it were a big bundle of straws, okay? Where this is the end of the straw, big bundle of straws, okay? The glue that we use is a water-based glue, all right? So when you put glue on end grain, those straws basically suck all the water out of that glue, and it makes it a very weak glue joint. Okay, so that's one reason we don't glue end grain, all right? Now, there are some situations where we will, but we'll generally use some other form of structural support, like biscuits, things like that, mortise and tenon, some other type of joinery that helps strengthen that joint. Because a simple glue joint, if I tried to glue these two boards together like this, with the end grain of this board, the face grain of that board, it would fail, okay? This will likely fail, okay? But if I add some other structural support, like a dado, a rabbet up here, some biscuits, something like that, it can be a legitimate joint. So what we're going to do today is we're going to laminate these two boards together to make a nightstand top, okay? Now, according to the plans, right, your top is supposed to be 13 3/4 inches wide and 16.5 inches long, okay? So this is going to be our width. We need to get 13 3/4 that way. We need to get 16.5 that way, okay? Because the grain direction, when you mount your top to your nightstand, grain direction is important in how it looks. In other words, if you guys are standing in front of a nightstand looking straight at it, okay, this would be the front edge. Okay, the grain should wrap around like this. The grain on the drawer is going to go this way, so it should be going the same way as the top. Now, if you were here, it'd be easier to show you this, but you'll understand this once we get ready to mount the top. So one of the first things we do when we get ready to laminate, okay? And this is whether we're laminating for width or whether we're laminating for thickness. It's the same thing. We always do this. All right, what we want to do is take a look at our boards, and we want to see their physical look. What does it look like? What does it look like? What's it going to look like if I put these two boards together edge to edge like that? Or what's it going to look like if I put them together like that? I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's pretty poor. I've got a nice dark streak right along here. There's no matching dark streak there, okay? But if I turn this one around, all right, those matching streaks along the edge of the board, okay, that works, all right? That could work. Let's look at some other ways to do it, okay? There's a possibility. It's a little bit darker right along here and it lightens up towards the edges of the board. This is a definite possibility, okay? I've got a bad split right here, but if we do it like this, we should be all right. Let's see, what other colors are there here we can put together? So the nice thing is, if we do it this way, this is gonna look fine, or if we decide we wanna see the other side of the boards, this is gonna be fine, okay? So we're gonna do it just like this. So right now, these boards are about a ½ inch longer than they need to be when they're done, about 17 inches long. They need to be 16.5 when we're done. And they're much wider than we need, okay? So the first thing we have to do to get these boards ready to glue is we have to joint these mating edges. We need a nice, perfectly flat, straight, square surface to glue together. So what I'm gonna do is, now that I've got these matched up the way I want, I'm gonna mark them. Okay, now I know how they go back together. There's no way of mistaking which way they're supposed to go back together. It's easy to tell. I'm also going to put a 2 on here because I did one of these last period, and I want to make sure we get the right one to the right class. So here we are. We've got these guys ready to joint. So we're going to move over to the joiner, I think. Ha, look at that. Okay, so we've got our boards here. We're ready to join them. That's the edge I want to joint right there. I want to listen to the machine. That'll usually tell me when it's done. I'll get one more pass. Okay, that's pretty good. So my edge, I don't have to do the outside edges. Don't worry about the outside edges, not a problem. We're gonna get those off after we get it glued up. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a joint that just holding them together like this, I've got no gaps. Okay, that's a nice, tight joint, okay? So we gotta get ready to glue these up. Normally we would glue these up. We have a special clamp table over at the other side of the shop. But since I'd have to physically move the camera all the way over there for you to see it at that table, we're just going to do it right here. And we're just going to be careful not to get any glue on the clamps. Okay. So these are bar clamps or I-bar clamps, I-beam clamps, okay? When it comes to clamps, you want to use enough to get the job done. Clamps are not intended to force parts together so that they fit. The intent of clamps is solely to hold two or more pieces in place while adhesives cure. Okay, so we're not trying to close any gaps or bring two parts together that don't want to fit with clamping pressure. It doesn't work that way. If we have to use clamping pressure to bring two parts together that they don't want to come together, we've done something wrong. We need to go back and fix it before we go to clamp it, okay? So the first thing we do, anytime we get ready to glue something up, and that's whether we're gluing two boards together to make a top for a nightstand, whether we're gluing 8 different parts together to make a cabinet for a tool chest, doesn't matter. We always do what we call a dry fit first. What I mean by that is we get our clamps out, we get our boards, our parts out, and we put them together. We assemble them without glue, okay? We want to make sure of a couple things. Number one, that everything fits the way it's supposed to. Number two, that we're comfortable in putting it together. There's a couple cabinets sitting over here that have multiple parts and shelves and interior things that had to all go together at once. I actually dry fit them several times to make sure I was comfortable with how they go together, and that everything fit, and that I had the right clamps and enough clamps before I ever put glue on it. Once you put glue on something, you've committed. Okay, you've committed to assembling that thing. And if something happens during that assembly, during that glue up, that clamping process, it could be tragic, okay? So we always dry fit first, and all that means is put things together without glue. So we've got our clamps here, we've got our clamps set. I like to have about 1 inch of thread here in front of these little parts, so I've got room to back them off. I don't want a whole lot of thread there because I don't want to have it buried and not have enough thread to tighten the clamp down. So I've got these sitting where I want. I'm going to slide these back feet up. Okay, now our clamps are set. We don't have to touch these parts anymore. All we have to do, and everything looks good, it's going to go together nice. All we have to do is back this off a little bit. Back that off a little bit. Put glue on it, lay it back down, cinch the clamps down. Okay, so here's our gluing. Normally on the clamp table, which is where we do all our gluing, I would just pour a bead of glue along the edge and then spread it with my finger. But I'm not over there, and I really don't want to make a mess of this outfeed table for the table saw, so I'm going to brush it on. So basically, all you really need is a nice, even layer of glue. You don't need a ton of glue. It should not be dripping all over the place. All that does, waste glue, makes for one heck of a difficult cleanup, and gets all over the clamps, which you can see these clamps, they got glue all over them. And there's no need for it. It's just wasteful. You get a really nice, strong glue joint. Once we clamp it up, hopefully you can see on this camera, the glue squeeze out and what it's supposed to look like. It should be a little bead of glue all along the joint line once it's clamped. That's probably a little too much right there, but all right, so we're ready to go. All right. So here we go. Lay it down. Our clamps are set, which is really nice. All we have to do is bring them up. So I get really light pressure on it. Then I can feel here at the joint line to make sure it's flush. If it doesn't want to stay flush, because this stuff will slip and slide like crazy when you start putting a little clamp pressure on it. If it doesn't want to stay flush, you can always take a little clamp. We've got these little squeezy spring clamps. You can stick one here and one here on the joint line, and it makes life a little easier. But usually, if you're real careful about the way you apply pressure to the clamps and you keep an eye on it, usually it's not a problem. All right. So I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but there's a really nice little bead of glue squeezing out there. That's perfect. We don't want it coming out all over the place. If you look at the back side, you can see a little bit more because of gravity. See, I'm getting glue on the table, which I didn't want to do. Okay, that's a pretty good little glue squeeze out along there. All right, so we're going to set this aside. Let it sit. All right, so through the magic of woodshop, I have a top here that I had glued up last night. Okay. So I can get this going in the right place. Okay, so I've got this. I think I should be on. Let's go to. I've got this board. Okay, it's just a little bit wider than we need, and it's a little bit longer than we need. This morning, what I did was I thicknessed it. I planed it down, and I've got people in the waiting room here. Looks like he got kicked off somehow. Sammy's already been here. Sean was late. Sam Rosser.
Thank you. Sorry, I got kicked out.
Yeah, a bunch of people, it looks like it did. They did. So not a problem.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it looks like a bunch of people got kicked out. So, all right. So I have this board, like I said, that are thicknessed. It's a little bit oversized than what we need for the top. So we're going to trim it down to final size. Okay. So the first thing I have to do is joint one edge of the board. And I think that's number 2. Okay. So I'm going to joint one edge real quick. There's my jointed edge. Usually what I do when I join an edge like this, and this is very good practice, is I'll set it over here at the table saw with the jointed edge away from the fence. Okay, and here's one. Okay, so let me see if this takes us to the right place. All right, so we're going to rip this to width, and this is where we rip to final width. Okay, I've got my board sitting here. This is my jointed edge, so that all I have to do is pick it up, put it against the fence. My jointed edge is against the fence. I really like it when people do that all the time. It's a good, consistent way to do it. All right. We set our blade height to about 1/4 inch above the material. Okay. According to our plans, which if we're at the table saw, we should have our plan sitting right here. Our top needs to be 13 3/4 inches wide. So we're going to set the fence. Shouldn't take much off at all. There's 13 3/4. Okay. Blade height set. Everything's ready to go. So we rip it to final width. All right. There's our final width. Okay. Now we did thickness first, width second. Now we do length. Okay. So normally we would do length at the miter saw, but this board's a little bit too wide for the miter saw. Our miter saw can handle something up to about 12 inches wide. This is a little over 12 inches wide. So that presents a little bit of a dilemma. You could go to the miter saw and make a cut. It'd cut to about right here. Then you could flip it and continue that cut, but the chances that you're going to get it just right are pretty slim. There are other ways to do it. We're going to show you that way right now. Okay. We have what's called a cutoff sled, and you may have seen these in some of the videos that you've seen people use before. And we can use this to cut to length. All we've really done is provided a secondary fence that's perpendicular to the original rip fence. Now we can put the long edge against the fence, and we can cross cut on this. I wouldn't use a miter gauge because a miter gauge, the problem we run across with a miter gauge. So these boards are a little bit too wide try and do with a miter gauge, and here's why. We certainly could do it. When you do this, at some point, when you're backing this up, it's going to fall off the table, right? It's going to start rocking. And that point is right about 12 inches, okay? So if I take this board and I try to do this, here's the problem. I've got to start way back here. My miter gauge is off the edge of the table. It's going to want to rock. So I'll have this thing sitting here. I'm going to get caught, okay? So it's not an easy way to do it on a wider board. This is why we have cutoff sled. There's a lot of different variations or ways to build a cutoff sled. But this allows us quite a bit of width capability. Okay, and you guys should be able to see it, I hope, the way this thing's made. Okay, I'm going to bring this a little closer so you can see it, because it's kind of important. Okay, so what you're looking at here, this is just a little guard to keep your hands out of the area, okay, and keep chips from flying up your face, things like that. What you're looking at here, you guys see this groove in here, okay, and this groove in this front fence thing. That's the blade curve. The blade is what made that cut. That's how wide our blades are, 1/8 of an inch. That's an 1/8 of an inch curve. That is important because what we're going to do is we're going to trim one end, okay? It always takes 2 cuts to cut a board length. The first cut is a trimming and squaring cut. So we're going to slide the end of this board up to where the end just crosses over that curve, so that when we make a cut, we're just taking a little bit off that end. Then we're going to take the board, we're going to turn it around, we're going to measure from that end we just cut. We're going to make a mark up here at this leading edge at 16.5 inches, the final length of our top. We're going to line that pencil mark up with the left edge of that curve, that blade curve, make our final cut. All right, so let's try doing this. The way this thing rides, I don't know if I showed you this, but it's got these 2 runners underneath that ride in the miter slots. Okay. Drop right in. We'll have to raise our, come on. We'll have to raise our blade height because of this board it's sitting on. So our first cut, we back this all the way off the blade. We put it tight up against the fence. We get a little bit of our end hanging over the blade curves. Hold it tight to the fence. There's our trim cut. So what that first cut's done for us is given us a nice flat, oh, you can't see that, nice flat, straight, square end. Okay. So now what we can do is we can measure from this end we just cut, make a mark at 16.5 inches. Make it enough so I can see it. So I don't know if you guys can see that mark, but there's a mark here now. I'm going to set this mark right on the left side of this blade curve, and it should trim it right on that pencil line. Get it off the blade. All right. So there is our, what should be, so you guys can see this. That is our 16.5 inch long top. Okay?
I believe you, but can you bring it closer?
Yeah. See if it'll focus on it. All right, can you see that? Is it? I don't know if it's focusing very well, but there's our 16.5 inch length. Okay?
Okay.
That's our final.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a lot of pencils, man. I use them all the time out here. You guys, I've got so much junk in my pockets. It's not even funny. I usually buy a new one of these vests every year. I've got everything from glue brushes right, to my little sliding square, right? You saw some of those in the video the other day. This is just one pocket right here. A little miniature pair of vice grips. They come in really handy from time to time.
For what?
Grabbing little nuts and bolts instead of going over to the toolbox and trying to find the right wrench or something like that to fit it. A lot of times I'll just use the vice grips. Little felt pin. I don't know why I got that. What else is in there? This is one of my full pockets. Let's see what else we got going on in here. There is a VIX bit. Okay, that's a type of drill bit that allows you to drill pre-centered holes for mounting hinges. It's got a little spring-loaded guy right here that when it pulls out, there's a little, I don't know if you can see it, when that spring pops back, my fat fingers, there's a bit right there. So this little guy springs back and the bit, you can see a little tapered in. I don't think I have a hinge. Actually, I do have a hinge. Here's how it works. It's kind of a neat little, there's different sizes. So if you've got a hinge like this, right, and you want to pre-drill a hole centered, you want to pre-drill a hole in the wood that's centered on that hinge hole. Basically, this little guy goes right in there, chucks in a drill, and when you push it, when you're drilling and you push it, you see that little bit comes through and drills a centered hole in the hinge. I don't know, that's just one of those things. An assortment of Allen wrenches, because a lot of the things that need adjustment around here need Allen wrenches. Yeah, it's a mini wood shop in my pocket. So there's that pocket. Here's box knife. Everybody needs a box knife in their pocket, right? This is a little pair of channel locks, little miniature pair of channel locks. What's in here? This is my tape measure, right? I get a new tape measure every year. It's like Christmas. This is the chuck key for our little corded drills. This is the chuck key for our drill presses. I always keep a spare in my pocket. This little key, this is an interesting little key, all right? Usually when you see a key like this, you guys know what the windmills are, the big wind turbines up in the port outside, out east of Portland and stuff. I used to work on those things in Southern California for about 12 years, 13 years. And we had keys that opened the doors at the base of the turbine that looked similar to this. Like one end's a little square thing, right? Can you guess what this other end is? And it was usually because the turbines we had where I worked were Danish. They were manufactured in Denmark. Every one of these keys that they give out, that they send out with all their turbines, they're bottle openers. Okay, so that tells you a little bit about the Danish people, you know. But this is just a key to open the doors on our drum sander. So I got that. What's in here? Here's a little pocket. There's a bigger felt pin in this other little pocket. I'm getting off track, huh? We got one more thing we got to do before it's time. There's a whole bunch more Allen wrenches in that little pocket. So it's not full yet. This is a new vest, and I haven't totally filled it up yet. But there's quite a bit going on. I mean, I got more. This is a new type of vest. I got more pockets in here, and I know what to do with. There's some of them I don't even know what I'm going to put in them. Usually what happens, oh, there's a giant eraser. Usually what happens is they get filled up with sawdust. All right, so here's what we're going to do next. So let me move this down a little bit so you can see. This is probably the fun part for you guys when you're here is getting to do this. All right, so now we've got this board. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to use a router table to put a decorative edge or a decorative profile all the way around this board, but not at the back edge. We're going to leave the back edge flat, no profile, no routing on the back edge. So what we have to do now is we have to decide which surface is going to be the one which surface is going to be up, which is the one we're going to see, whether it's going to be that surface or that surface. We also have to decide what's going to be the front edge. Is it going to be that edge or that edge? Okay, because that's going to come into play when we go to the router table, because we're only doing 3 edges. We're going to do the 2 ends and 1 edge. We're not going to do the back edge. So I'm going to call, I like that little knot. I'm going to call this our top, and this is going to be our front edge. So I'm going to flip it over. Now this is our front edge, this is our back edge. And I'm going to number these. This is going to be number 1. This is going to be number 2. This is going to be number 3. All right. Now, here's why. If I just grab a handheld router, okay? If I just grab one of our little routers, and I want to do this by hand, I can certainly chuck a bit in one of these things and put a decorative profile on this top. Okay, no problem. I can take this router and I can go around here counterclockwise, and I can go all the way around the edge, and I can do that. I can do it with a handheld router. Okay. So I would have my good side, the one I'm going to see, sitting up, because I'm approaching this board from above. We're going to do this in a router table, and the router table is basically a gigantic motor. It's a 3¼ horsepower motor, where I think this is like one horse. It's not nearly, what does it say? It's usually like a horse or just a hair over a horse. So the one in the router table is like 3 times the power of this. But that guy in the router table is mounted upside down in there. Okay, so we have to compensate for that. What that's telling us is, if we want to profile along the top surface of this, we have to do it good side down. Okay, so I put the numbers on the back, and these numbers indicate the order that I'm going to do these edges. Okay, we always route in grain first, because there's a very good chance when a bit exits this in grain, it's going to take a chunk out. If it takes a chunk out when we're going this way, okay, there's a very good chance that when we do this last edge, it'll clean that up. Okay, and there's different ways to help improve the chances of having no tear out or less tear out or having a clean exit. Anytime a bit or a blade exits a piece of wood, you're taking a chance on it splintering or tearing out. Those chances are much higher when you're working end grain. Okay, so yeah, so let's move this over to the joint or the router table. That is probably, no, that's table saw. I didn't write these numbers down, so it's got to be 5 then. All right, so there's our router table. Okay, all right, so we're going to do a couple different things. Now, a router basically is only as good as the bits you put in. And what I mean by that is there are just an unbelievable number of bits that you can get for a router. Let me turn this screen so I can kind of see what you guys are seeing a little bit. And we have a lot of router bits. Okay, for example, this is a bullnose bit. It's a big sucker. All right, it's not focusing. If my head was here, I'd focus on my head. Okay, you can kind of see it. Okay, this is what's called a Roman ogee bit. You can kind of see the profile on that cutting edge right here. It's called an ogee bit, O-G-E-E. It's a chamfer bit, just a straight 45-degree chamfer bit. And this is a 1/4 inch rounder bit, one of the more common bits we use, anywhere from 1/8 of an inch all the way up to 3/4 or 1 inch roundover bit. Now this is very similar to the bit we've got in there right now. These bits can do 2 different things. A lot of bits can do 2 different things. And let me show you one. So this is, I believe this is a 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch roundover bit. Yeah, 1/2 inch roundover bit. Okay, so you guys see this bit. All right, it's a little fuzzy, but you should get the idea. Here's the cutting edge right here. That cutting edge extends down this flat surface. Okay, you can see it over here probably a little better. Okay, so you can see the rounded portion, that's the roundover portion, but then it drops off into this flat portion. Okay, this bit will do a couple different things depending on how high the bit is set. And I'm going to show you that. Okay, I'm going to show you that on this board. Okay, so I'm going to lower this thing a little bit. So right now I have the bit height set to a simple roundover, like a 3/8 inch roundover. Okay, so this is pretty loud. So I don't know how loud it's going to be on the screen. So I'm going to do this in first, number 1. Then I'm going to do number 2. Then I'm going to do number 3. Okay. So that's just a simple round over. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this profile, but it's just a nice little round over. Okay, so you can kind of see it, I think. Okay, now I'm going to raise the bit a little bit. Okay, and you'll see what a difference it makes. All we're doing is exposing this little flat portion of the cutter. Okay. And we're going to go through it again. So just by raising that bit a little bit, you can see the difference it made in the profile. It exposed that flat portion of the bit, and it gave it a little lip along the upper edge. So this portion is just that roundover portion, right? And when we raised the bit, we increased the roundover and we added this little lip. Okay, so that's just the profile on an edge. There's a lot of different profiles you can put on the edge of a board. They're kind of fun to play with some of the different bits and stuff. But so that top is basically ready to be mounted to a nightstand. Let me get back over here. With one exception. Okay, what we're going to do, maybe Monday or Tuesday, depending on how long it's going to take me to get a file ready. It doesn't take long, I just have to do it. Okay, we're actually going to go into the laser room, which is behind me. There's a box there. Oh. This is our laser back here. This guy, right? Let's see if I can do this the right way. That's super wrong. With that yellow tag on the front, that's our laser. That's our CO2 laser. So Monday or Tuesday, what we're going to do is we're going to put some sort of design on the top of it with the laser. Okay, so there's my head. So let's at least get there. Wrong way. Okay, we're going to put some sort of design on the top of the laser. Yeah, if you guys want to throw some ideas out there for Tuesday or something like that to put it on there, I'll take a look and see what we've got. Basically, we can put anything on there, well, that's appropriate for high school. But any sort of clip art, black and white clip art is especially handy because it's all ready to go. So there's 1,000 other things we can put on there. We'll figure something out. But we'll show you how the laser works. And then we'll get the top mounted. Then we start working on side trim. Then we start working on the drawer. My guess is we're going to finish this well before the end of the quarter. So we'll find something else we can play with and do out here and have some fun with. We'll mess around a little bit. You can always take a look at some of the, there's 2 projects going on for my other 2, my intermediate and my advanced classes. And those are, you guys have so they chose 2 projects to make me make. And this is one of them. I'll turn this over so you can see it. So they have a choice of about the project itself. But as a group, they came together and voted on which projects they wanted me to do. One of them in first period, one of them in second period. We're getting there. We're not done. We're getting there. And so I'll show you guys what these are. Get up here. Oh, gosh. I can't handle it. I gotta leave. I got a class still. Are you all right? Yeah. So these are the two. There's well, hold on, don't. So there's one project of mine way over there by the door. I'm trying to make that better looking, and it's just not working out yet, but I'm going to keep working on it, man. But it's not working for me either, you know. So that's actually Mr. Lear. He's a metals teacher. Thank God he's got a good sense of humor, because if he could catch me, he'd beat the heck out of me. So here's the two projects that we're doing for the other classes. The one on the left, I guess it'd be your left, the one closest to the panel saw, is supposed to be a tool cabinet with a timbre door. I don't know if you know what I mean by a timbre door, but it's a roll-up door. So the door will slide up and back into the back here. It's got drawers here.
Like a garage door?
Kind of, but it's all a whole series of a whole bunch of little slats, little wooden slats. It's got to make it around this radius up here, which is I think about a 8-inch radius. So it's all a bunch of little slats. You guys will see it at some point. And then some drawers that go in here. And then this is the other classes. This is actually for the drill presses. This will have some racks in here that hold different drill bits and stuff. These doors aren't set up yet, but these doors close. And then this bottom thing will have several drawers. Here's one of the drawers. And these drawers can move anywhere. You can put them anywhere you want here, depending on how you've got it set up. You know, you can make it any size you want. So yeah, just a couple cabinets. So we'll find something else we can do. But okay, so it's Friday. Make sure you got your name in the chat. You guys have a great weekend. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you guys on Monday. Take care of yourselves and have a great weekend. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye, thank you. Have a good weekend.
All right, Sammy, you too. Thank you.